For one, I've thought about it for years. I took Swahili in college, 2 semesters, and that's the native language of East Africa in Tanzania and Kenya. And Mount Kilimanjaro straddles those two countries, just below the equator in Eastern Africa. So I was kind of familiar with the mountain for a long time. And after college, I became a hiker, and I started doing mountains around New England and getting to the top of them, and I thought it was really great. And as I was getting older, I kept thinking about Kilimanjaro. And also, my brother-in-law, Chris, he died of cancer back in December of 2015. And I was thinking, how could I honor him? And a few months later, in the summer of 2016, a friend of mine from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society contacted me and said, hey, we're doing this fundraiser. It's a really big deal. We're going to climb Kilimanjaro. And I just stopped dead in my tracks and I went, oh my gosh, that mountain's been on my list for years. So I agreed to do it, and I signed up and started training. Sherpa Tom was assigned as our coach for the New England group, and there were 5 of us from New England that were all training to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And he's hiked all the 4,000 footers in New England and the White Mountains, and he's done lots and lots of hiking for his whole life. And he was amazing. He was such a great coach because he taught us about pacing ourselves, about listening to our bodies, about how to layer our gear. That, hands down, was the summit day. So when we went for the summit, we were starting at a base camp called Barafu Camp, which is about 15,000 feet in elevation. And we had got there about lunch that day, and we were supposed to rest all afternoon. We ate a dinner really early, like at 4:30 or 5, and then we were told to go to bed because we were waking up at 11 p.m. that night to head for the summit. So when we wake up, it's completely dark. It's 11 o'clock at night. I can see the lights of Moshi down below. It looks like the way it looks out of an airplane window. And so we get our gear on. It's really, really cold up there. There's nothing, no trees. It's freezing. It's frigid cold. And I've got all my gear on. We ate a little something, and we had to put headlamps on and completely bundle up. And then we started for the summit. And as we're going up, I feel okay at first, but then the altitude really starts to get to me, and I'm having a harder time breathing. And around 3:30 in the morning, I was dizzy. My body was weak. I just couldn't breathe. I'm breathing as deep as I can just to get enough air, just with every step. And we're going so slow. Pole pole, they say in Swahili. Pole pole, which means slow, slow. I had to adjust my underneath layer, so I had underzipped my winter shell, and I couldn't zip the zipper back up. I couldn't figure it out. And this is a big heavy shell made for doing extreme outdoor stuff, and it has 2 magnets in the 2 zipper parts, so they just go clunk and you pull it up. And it's super easy. It's the easiest zipper you've ever used, except around 17,000 feet I couldn't figure it out, and I realized it's my brain. My brain isn't functioning right. I'm not getting enough air, so I couldn't figure out the zipper. And one of our guides came over and had to help me. I felt like a 3-year-old trying to zip up his coat or something. And so that was just so hard. And I didn't think I was going to make it. At that point, I thought I'm going to have to turn around because it's so dark. But then something happened, and it was really amazing. It happened around 5:30 in the morning. I turned around behind me to look east, and the sky, which was completely black before, had this little band of purple. And then eventually the purple turned to a little bit of orange and a little bit of red, and I realized the sun is starting to come up. And I went, okay, let me just make it to sunup. And at that point, we're just shy of Stella Point, which is 18,800 feet. And we're getting so close to Stella Point, and the sun breaks up through. We're well above the clouds. I took this picture that you can see here, and I went, I'm going to make it. That was the moment. This picture to me represents hope. This is when I said, I am going to make it. I still had another hour to go, but I knew when that sun came out, I felt warmed up. I could see where I was for the first time, and I knew I'd make it. We would pass marking where people had died. Someone who died just in 2015, a little stone was right there marking them. And I thought, oh my gosh, people die up here just from the altitude. They can't breathe, they can't get enough. And so that was one of those things that I had to contend with as well. Not just, the mental struggle, the physical struggle, but also the emotional one of seeing that other people have died here. And that was a really powerful moment for me. But when I saw that sun, I knew we were going to make it. And finally, as we close in, I see the sign for the summit there in the distance. Maybe it's, about a football field away. And we just get closer and closer, just up this slight incline at the very end. And I get within feet of it, and then there it is. I get to touch the sign that says, congratulations, you are at the roof of Africa, the summit, 19,341 feet. I can't breathe. I'm crying and laughing at the same time, and I just feel like it's funny. I mean, I felt good about it, but it's one of the things that it would actually take a day or two to really sink in, because I'm so exhausted at that point. I've never done something so physically hard, so mentally hard, even emotionally hard. To get there, I took some pictures. I took pictures holding up my brother-in-law Chris, who came with me to the top. There he is. I held this very photo up. I brought him up there with me, and you know, dedicated my climb to him. I did a little video to thank people for donating, and then we were only there 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and they said, we got to get down because we have a long way to go. We still have to get back down the mountain.